Hello and welcome to my HTML5 tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to try to teach you guys how to make this exact website right here. It's just a HTML page. I'm going to show you guys how to make this exact page within HTML5 and some basic CSS3. And I'm going to hopefully do this within about 2 or 3 tutorials, and just to show you guys the basics of HTML5 and CSS3. Now, just by default, it comes, with some decent responsiveness, but you can see, obviously, like the nav bar items are kind of going missing. We're not really using spacing the way we ought to. Now this looks okay, but obviously there's a few other things that we'd want to change, and I'll be getting into that in some future videos for HTML5. But for now, I'd like to show you guys just how to make this basic web page here, and you should be able to do everything I'm doing here. Besides obviously the logo, you could just make your own logo, or you can just leave it as a broken logo image. And maybe I'll upload like a default logo that you could use if you wanted. But anyway, with that, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. You're only going to need one thing, and that's going to be Notepad++. If you don't have Notepad++, definitely go download it. If you're going to be doing any sort of programming at all, Notepad++ is a great little editor that really can be used for just about any language at all. But if you're doing like HTML5, CSS, that kind of stuff, you can use it. Same thing, you can use it with Python and so on. So with that, I'm going to open up Notepad++ and let's get started. So once you have Notepad++ open, the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and just save this file, so we don't really have anything. So let's just automatically save this file as an HTML file. And what you want to do is, let's just go ahead and you just call it index, and then save the file type as an HTML file. This will help your computer just kind of recognize what it's looking at, and then also when you're coding it, Notepad++ will color things accordingly. At the same time, let's go ahead and open up another file, and let's just call this styles and save it as a CSS file. We're not going to be getting into this one just yet, but let's go ahead and just put that file there. Where the heck is CSS? Here it is. Cascading style sheet. So we'll save that. So let's get in real quick to the purpose of HTML and CSS. CSS is, well, we save it as styles, and it's also a cascading style sheet. What it's going to do is it's going to reference, or really your HTML is going to reference your style sheet. You can call a style sheet in HTML, and what your style sheet is going to say is everything that's labeled as maybe like a paragraph. For example, we want it to look like this, right? We want it this font, this size, this color. Any links, for example, we want this font, this size, this color. When they're hovered over, we want this. Nav bar buttons, this, and so on. That's pretty much what HTML and CSS does. Now with HTML5, we're given a whole lot of other things, but some of the major changes are you have specific like header tags and footer tags that kind of have changed meaning. And before, a header was just like literally the top of the page and the bottom of the page. Now header and footer kind of mean different things. Same thing with nav. We've been given like nav tags that tells HTML5 exactly what it is. And along with this, it makes your website much more friendly to like search engines like Google to figure out what exactly your site is all about. So it's definitely worth having. Plus, for programming purposes, and like if you're brand new to coding and just like web design entirely, HTML5 is pretty simple. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. When we visit our site, let me go bring up our site here. Usually you can break it down into just a few things. Like for example, we've got a header basically here, and basically when you make a website, you're going to eventually want this stuff, the nav bar and above, to follow you everywhere, and the content to stay, and then you want this footer to kind of follow you everywhere on every page. But basically we've got the logo, nav bar, and then down here is the content, and then we finally end with a footer. So in both of our HTML5 and CSS, it's always helpful to just code in order, and it just makes things a lot more easy to understand. The first thing you're going to need to do is define what this page is even using for HTML. And for HTML5, it's quite simple. You just doc type HTML, that's it. Next thing you want to do is specify the language that you'll be coding in. We're going to be using English, so language equals EN. Oops, not end, EN. Next, we're going to specify a head, and this is going to be head, and then it's always a good idea to go ahead and close off your tags as you make them. And within the head, we are going to have a title. This will be the title of the site basically. And so it's going to be what goes up kind of like up here in your browser and in the tab. And we'll go ahead and close off the title tag. And for now, I'm going to call this Syntax HTML5 and CSS tutorial. And then you can specify the character set, and in this case we're going to use meta char set equals UTF-8, and that's its own little tag. Basically, all of this so far is something that you're going to be including in every HTML document. Obviously your title might change, but all this stuff in this head right here is pretty much going to be the same no matter what the website is that you're coding. So continuing along, the next thing we want to do is you link to a style sheet. So the way you do this is link relation. What is it? It's a style sheet. This tells HTML what we're linking and what to do with it basically. And then href, this is where it's located. In this case, it's in the same directory, and it's called styles.css. Oh, yeah. And then the next thing you want to do is say what it is. This is a text/CSS file. And that's it with this tag. It's also a one single tag there. So then the next thing we want to say is create another meta tag. We're going to say meta name equals, and this is just for typical viewing. I'm not really going to get into too much detail about this, but later on you can come down and specify various different types of viewing. And so like if someone visits your site on like a screen that only has like so many pixels and whatnot, you can start to change this stuff up. But anyway, viewport content equals width, device, and width, and initial dash scale equals 1.0. And we'll close that off as well. So now the next thing that we need to do, we are now done with the head. So the next thing we want to do is define the body here. So now in our body, and we're going to call this class equals body, and this might be new to some of you. Normally if you want to do, you would have to do like div tags. Instead you're telling, you're using the body tag and applying a class to that body tag. And then later on we have subclasses to these classes, so it gets really helpful. Another thing to do, if you might notice, that every time we put something within tags, like here we've got the titles within the tag, and we've got all this stuff within the header or the head tags, it's always good to indent. So it makes your code not only for you, but for anybody else looking through your code. If maybe you're working collaboratively or you want help with your code, you post up your code, and if you have this proper indentation, it makes your code much easier to read. And if you ever read, like if someone says you need to fix your standards, something like that, that's what they're talking about. You need to, properly indent your stuff. So anyway, moving right along, within our body class, basically we're going to be putting the bulk of our website within the body, as that makes most sense, right? That should make sense to you anyways. So we're going to close off the body tags, and let's make some space here to start building some stuff. So if we look back at our site, you'll see the first thing that comes up in our body is this logo, right? That's the first thing. So let's go ahead and specify our logo now. The logo is going to stay under a class. We're going to call this main head. And so it'll be header class equals main head, and we'll camel case it. And then we're now going to specify what that's going to be. So that's going to be image source equals, and then generally you're going to probably store your stuff in an image folder, and main logo.png. And then here you can specify the size if you want. It can either be a percentage, but it will change based on the zoom of the website, or rather the size of the window. So like if you, that can be useful, but really you should change it under the condition that it becomes a certain size. Generally that's a better idea, but for this I'm not going to get too far into that. So we're just going to say the width will be 700 pixels and the height will be 144 pixels. And then we're going to do the, and then actually let's go ahead and close off this header tag. I just realized we did not do that. So then in here we're going to specify our nav bar now. And now the nav is going to be in what's called an unordered list. So nav, and then let's go ahead and close off the nav. And within the nav, it's going to be an unordered list. Now you could put the unordered list within the nav tags, but I kind of feel like this is an integral part to your nav bar, so I'm not going to do that. And then now within this unordered list, every item in the list is a list item, which is denoted as LI. So you have an unordered list tag, and then each item in that list is denoted as a list item or LI. So now you would have these list items, and on our site we had, I think, 4. So we'll just copy 2, 3, 4. And now what we want to do is this first one, I'm going to say class equals active, just so you can get an idea of what the active looks like. Because generally, like if you're on a specific page, you might want to highlight that specific button. So I'm just going to show you what that might look like so you can begin to code those. The next thing we're going to want to do with this list item, it's going to be called, the first one will be home, but you want that list item to do something when it's clicked, right? So the first thing you're going to do is give it a link. So a and then href equals, and then here we're just going to put a £sign in here, just so it has something in the link. And then at the end, but this would obviously be the link to wherever homepage should go, so it would be your website. Then we'll close off the A tag. Oops. And that should be the end for this. And I'm going to go ahead and stuff the rest of these like this, this, this. And then we'll close off the A tag again. And I'm going to copy and paste that as well. So there, there. Now let's pop back over to our website. As you can see, we've got blog, news, and archive as well that we want to have buttons for. So let me just type those in there. Blog, news, and archive. Okay, let's save that and let's see where we are. Obviously, the only thing that won't work is our logo page, and our CSS has no styles. So our logo is probably going to give us a bit of a broken image. Let's open this site up real quick. So here we go. This is all we have at the moment. We've just got our sort of nav bar and a broken image, but you can start to see this is slowly coming together. Don't worry, it's eventually going to look like that.